Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me again today. Today I'm going to be featuring this paper pad from Funky Fossil Designs. It's called Bee Sweet. It's a 6x6 paper pad and it's got some gorgeous bee themed, bright coloured pages, perfect for spring cards. And I'm going to make a little set of notelets today, and I'm going to show you some ways that you can use up some of your smaller pieces or scraps that are left over from the paper pad. And as you can see, there's some really lovely, pretty designs in the paper pad. So I've got 5 white A6 notelet cards. So this is the size I'm going to be working with today, but you could easily adapt this to other card sizes. And now I'll also be using this Be Kind stamp set from Funky Fossil Designs. It also came with this die set as part of a bundle on the How to Craft network. I will link as many products as I can in the description box below. And also it came with these washi strips. So if you've perhaps never used washi tape before, these were a great way of getting used to using washi tape and the different ways that you can use it. So first off, I've got this honeycomb scrap, and I'm going to use the heart-shaped die with the foliage around the outside, and I'm just going to cut that half. And as you can see, the die's really cut like butter. It's such a beautiful die. There's so many different ways that you could use this. And now I'm just lining it up on my card panel. You will see in a minute that I completely changed my mind with the layout. But I'm next just going to cut a couple of those bees out of some navy blue cardstock as well. And I think that'll add a really nice focal point and a little extra detail to the card. So I did use my pokey tool to get the smaller one out. Again, the pokey tool is by Sizzix, and I will link that in the description box below. Next I decide I'm going to use some washi strips, and I think this will just lift the card a little bit. So I'm just working out which one I want, and you can see you've got some really gorgeous designs. You do get 2 sheets of this, so you don't have to worry about using your favourite one up first. You'll always have a second one that you can save, hoard or use for later. And you just use them like stickers. They just peel off really easily. And then I'm just going to line that up along the edge of the card panel. I'm lining that up along the scored edge. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and just trim off the excess. Remember, you can save these scraps. You can stick them back onto the sheet that they came on, and then you'll be able to use them at a later date for another project. So next I'm just having a little bit of a play around with the layout of my card, and I'm just going to take that big sentiment that says be kind always. I'm using an All Create acrylic block, and I'm using VersaFine Clair in Twilight ink, which is like a deep navy blue. I just think it's a bit softer than using black, so it's just something a little bit different. So once I've stamped my sentiment and I'm happy with where that's going, I'm just going to glue this die cut down. I'm using Nuvo Deluxe glue, which is a quick grab, quick drying glue. And of course you've got a little bit of wiggle room as you place those die cuts down. I then change my mind as to where I want the placement of the bees, and so I add them just above that sentiment there. And then just to step it up a little bit, I've got these enamel dots from Funky Fossil Designs. These were from the Shibori collection, and I'm just going to add a few of those on there just to finish the card. And there we go, there's the first card finished. So for the next card, I've got my card base in landscape, and I'm going to use washi tape strips for this one. This is a great way of using washi tape. It's a really quick and easy way of making a fast card. And I'm just going to line that up along the bottom of the card panel there, the card base, there. And I'm going to use the excess to actually adhere it in place to my desk just temporarily. And we'll be able to trim that off later and save those bits. So I'm just going to do that with a few more of the washi strips until I've got a nice layout on my card. So next I'm going to take my long bladed Tim Holtz scissors, and I'm just going to trim off the excess strips there from the washi tape. And I can put those back on the sheet and use those later. Next I'm going to bring in that big bold sentiment again that says be kind always. And again I'm inking that up in VersaFine Clair Twilight ink, and I'm just going to stamp that down. And then just to finish this card, I'm just going to add a few enamel dots. These were the dots that were part of the Bee Sweet collection. So you've got lovely colours that match the paper pad. You've got lovely sky blue, a bright lemon yellow, and then a warm grey colour. So there we go, there's the second card. So for the third card, I've got this stitched heart die. It's from a nesting die set. Again, products will be linked in the description box below. And I've die cut it 3 times out of 3 different scraps. and I'm just going to layer those up on my card base. Now, if you wanted to step this up, you could pop these on foam tape. You could, of course, matte and layer them on some plain coloured cardstock. There's lots of different ways that you could step this up, but I'm just keeping it really simple, and I'm just going to layer it flat directly onto my card base. Next, I'm going to bring back in that stamp set, and this time I'm using this gorgeous heart with the bee in. It's kind of like a stitch detail, and again I'm using that Twilight VersaFine Clair ink. And I've got my card panel folded out because you don't want any bulk underneath it when you're stamping. You want to make sure that your stamp gets really good contact with the cardstock. Now for the sentiment on this card, I do bring in this Woodware Stamp Set, and it's got this really cute sentiment that says "Be happy," and I just think it really suits this card. So I do use that, and again, if I can find that product, I will link it in the description below. And then again, just to finish, I'm going to add some of the enamel dots, and again, I'm going to use the ones from the Bee Sweet collection. I think these bright yellow ones just really finish off the card nicely. So for the fourth card, I'm going to use this edger die from Funky Fossil Designs, and I've cut 5 different scraps of paper using that border die along the edge. So the first thing I'm going to do is use one of the washi strips along the edge of the card panel, and this will just finish the card off nicely. And then on each of those die cut scraps, I'm going to add some glue to the back of them, and I'm just going to layer them one over the top of each other. And it's important that you start from that right hand edge, because otherwise you won't get the detail of the edger die showing. So that's why I've started from the edge, and the washi tape will just hide that white strip that you'll be left with. I did have to go and run through a 6th piece because they weren't quite wide enough. So once they're all stuck down, I'm just going to take my long bladed scissors again and just trim off the excess. Next, I'm going to bring in that lovely heart again, and again I'm going to stamp that in the Twilight ink, and I'm just using this sentiment with love. This is from the Blooming Tropical Funky Fossil Stamp Set, and I'm just going to use my Cutter Bee scissors just to fussy cut that image out. Now, I find it really easy to fussy cut with these scissors. They're particularly sharp, they're nice and straight, and you can easily manoeuvre them around in your hand because they're not too bulky. So once I'm happy with that, I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of that, and I'm just going to peel off the release tape and add that to the centre of my card. And then again, just to finish off this card, we're going to use some of those enamel dots. And it's a great way of using up your enamel dots, and they really do just add that extra detail to cards that just finish them off and make them look really nice and professional. So for the final card, I've got this nesting die set from Craft Stash. This is from the A2 collection, and it's got stitched edge dies and outline dies as well. So next, I cut out 2 panels of cardstock, one from the pattern paper and one in navy blue, and I'm going to matte and layer those onto the card base. I've die cut some hexagons from some of the paper scraps that I had, and I'm just going to line those up on the card front now just to decide what layout I would like. So then once I'm happy with the layout, I bring back in the stamp set, and I have cut this stamp so that I've just cut the bee off from the trail. And I'm just going to ink it up 3 times and stamp it on a piece of white cardstock. It's just a scrap that I've got to the side of me. And then I'm just going to stamp out the thank you sentiment as well. And I'm just going to fussy cut those bees out, and I'm going to use them as elements on the card. It's very easy to cut your stamps and it doesn't damage them, especially sentiment stamps where you've got very clear lines or spaces between the words. So when you cut the stamp in half, you can always put it back together again and use it as a whole stamp. So I'm just going to glue all of those hexagons down in place now using the Nuvo Deluxe glue, and just trying to make sure they've got a consistent border between them. And then I'm going to glue the blue panel down to the pattern paper panel, and then glue that whole piece to the front of my card. So next, I'm just going to use those bees that we fussy cut out. I'm just going to decide where I want them on my card base, and I'm only adding glue to the centres just so that I can pop the wings up a little bit to give it a little bit of dimension. And I'm just going to pop the sentiment up on some foam tape. And again, to finish off this card, I'm just going to add some of those enamel dots from the Bee Sweet collection just to finish off that card. And so there we go, there's our 5 Notelet cards from today. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. I really hope that it's given you some ideas and some inspiration as to how you can use up some of your pattern papers or scraps that you've got left. I will link as many products in the description box below, and please like and comment if you've enjoyed this video. It really does help, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more videos. Thank you so much for being here, and take care.